So we'll call this part two, and I'm just continuing from what I've said. Again, that last statement that America as an empire controls and plunders and loots the rest of the world is an appalling, horrific and reactive statement for most Americans. When I have said that to Americans, even well-read, well-educated Americans, including journalists, including editors, including powerful political types and behind-the-scenes types in Washington, D.C. itself, they'll look at me like I'm either blank or I'm an anti-American or I'm just stupid. No, the smartest of them will say, well, how can you say that? What do you mean by that? And 10 minutes later, they're reeling with nothing to say. And I'll get into that rave to explain that, because it's so critical. As I see it, it's really critical for Americans to understand that statement. Because at the basis of it is a huge amount of what's wrong today, is a huge amount of the situation America finds itself in the world today, and answers the question, why do they hate us? And trust me, they don't hate us because of our freedoms. They hate us because of what we've done to them for 100 years. And whether we're talking about the Russians, who we invaded in 1917 towards the end of World War I, and no American I've ever met knew that. So how come the Russians hated us? Well, we tried to crush their revolution right at the beginning. How come the Arabs hate us, or the Middle East hates us? Because we've installed absolutely brutal, dictatorial, fake royal families as their rulers, at the same time that we brought down and sabotaged and destroyed perfectly legitimate democratic governments both in Iran and Iraq in the early 50s. Start there. That's a really good reason to hate us. So there's lots of reasons why they hate us, but you don't get to understand that fully unless you understand how we've functioned as an empire. And that's just one corner of what's wrong. I was talking about taxes. We've got a problem in America with infrastructure where the bridges and roads are collapsing and need $300 billion of repairs, where the sewerage system is collapsing and needs $300 billion of repairs, where the electrical grid, the power grid is collapsing and needs $300 billion worth of repairs. But instead of spending $900 billion on that, we piss it away in the desert in Iraq to play power politics. Yeah, that's insane. That's insane. We're closing schools across America. We're cutting classes. We're cutting teachers. We're cutting the classes that are offered so that most schools teach no art, they teach no music, they teach no social sciences. In other words, they're not educating the children, they're indoctrinating them for very limited roles and jobs in the society with absolutely no awareness of what's beyond 9-to-5 work. Why? Because this culture is oriented to money, 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 money as its first 10 values. Because money is the ultimate measure of success in a consumer society. And America is the ultimate consumer society. It says it's the only true capitalist society, and that's absolute rubbish. It's the only true consumer society. It consumes, then it craps. And it consumes people, and it consumes resources, and it consumes anything it can. It doesn't give back. And it comes again from entitlement. It comes from gimme, 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 gimme. It comes from I rule. It comes from ego. And it comes from trying to fill the emptiness that exists in every person who is trained and programmed to be a consumer as a value. Because in a consumer society, you have to keep buying crap. Doesn't matter whether you need it, you have to keep buying crap. To keep buying crap, you have to keep making money. To keep making money, you have to work really hard. So America, of all the advanced countries, in the world, is the only one where people still only get 2 weeks paid holiday a year. And 50% of American workers don't take that 2 weeks holiday for fear that if they do, they'll lose their job and come back from holidays and find they haven't got it, Or they can't afford to take 2 weeks holiday, so they're working another job for 2 weeks to try and pay the bills. That's obscene. In a country like mine and most so-called evil socialist countries, people get at least 4 weeks paid holiday a year. In Australia, all people like first responders, nurses, doctors in the health system, police, paramedics, fire engine, those people, they will get 6 weeks fully paid holiday, and everyone gets a 17% bonus on top of their normal wage as extra holiday pay, just to give them a little extra something to spend. Yeah?
Right, so come back to how that influences American.
How do you think it influences America? You've only got to look around you in America. Firstly, everyone's in a state of exhaustion. Secondly, lots of people are working 2 and even 3 jobs. That impacts not just on them and their own health, it impacts on the health of their children, their communities, and ultimately their nation. Because if you're working that hard just to survive, you haven't got time to really pay attention to anything else. Yeah? So you stay in ignorance. Then we'll have at some point, we'll have a look at how the corporations of America, which by the way are the true government of America, how they perpetuate that for their own survival.